the Turkish city of Gaziantep and measured a magnitude of 7.8. The second earthquake measured at 7.5, which hit near Kahramanmaraş. We've just received these pictures from
I know
there.
death toll is over 3,000 now. This is older, but this gives you historical background too.
How much was created by the first tremor, which was stronger but further away. Turkish officials say there have been 120 aftershocks during Monday. There are fears the number of dead could rise sharply as rescue teams reach people trapped under rubble. Turkey has declared a state of emergency and appealed for international help. Well, some 45 countries have now offered their help to Turkey. Our diplomatic correspondent James Landell gave me the details. Have a listen.
Those are all promises. There is some substance. In the last hour or so, the British government has announced that today a plane will leave the UK and arrive in Turkey this evening, containing 76 search and rescue specialists and 4 dogs and an emergency medical team as well.
I think Erdoğan is mostly focusing on Türkler. Erdoğan Türkiye için içerik yapıyor. Türkiye'de para topluyor şu anda. Ben Amerika ve Avrupa'dan para toplamak için arka planda çalışma yapıyorum. Anladınız mı? Yani o yüzden şu anda benim alakam yok yani onunla bu nedenden dolayı. O Türkiye içerisinden para toplamak çok daha kolay bu prosede. Çünkü bunlar Türk organizasyonları. Maalesef Türk organizasyonları olduğu için ve Erdoğan'ın gerizekalılığından dolayı bir çıktı yani hani ondan dolayı PayPal işte ne bileyim yasaklı. Bu nedenlerden dolayı daha zor bir proses Amerikalıların direkt olarak para vermesi, direkt olarak para yatırması. Okey? Abi Silver'i sok. Silver'i sikimi sokayım yani şu anda. Salak salak konuşmayın. Okey? Biz global olarak yani global çalışma yapmaya çalışıyorum şu anda. Anladınız mı? Yani Türkiye içerisinde daha yani Türkiye içerisinde de zor para göndermek doğru düzgün ama yapmaya çalıştığım şu anda benim international audience için düzeltmeye çalışıyorum o prosesi. Maalesef Ahbap'ın bağış portalı çok zor yani. Hiç kullanılabilir değil yani. Anlatabiliyor muyum? Yani bunu Amerikalı olsan, Türk olsan yani bunu nasıl böyle bağış yapacaksın? Bunu klik edebileceğin bir link olması lazım. Bu nedenden dolayı arka planda bununla ilgili çalışıyoruz şu anda. Okey? Ben sabahtan beri bunu yapmaya çalışıyorum yani ilk bu olay olduğundan beri when I caught wind of what happened in Turkey, the first thing I did was immediately look for the best charities to help, okay? That's why it's taken hours and hours. But I wanted to figure out which were the most reputable charities. Ahbap is one of the most reputable, if not the most reputable one. But unfortunately, due to logistical problems, due to like political problems and whatnot, it's not as easy to donate to Turkish charities as it would be to donate to American charities or any other charity that usually works globally. So I wanted to create a streamlined process so that we could raise funds with ease. Okay? Me being able to donate is nothing. I mean, I'm going to donate obviously, but on top of that, if we can build a streamlined process, more people can donate with ease because a lot of people right now do not know how to donate. Okay? So that's what I've been working on this entire morning. Once I identified what charities that I want to work with NGOs are good, then we need to create a streamlined process. Soft Giving already has a streamlined process that is ready to go. But that streamlined process did not feature, okay, that Soft Giving link did not feature Ahbap, which is why I held. I didn't want to go live with it before I also had Ahbap in it. Because right now, as it stands, the Soft Giving link was going to donate funds to Care Turkey, Care Syria, Akut Search and Rescue Association. Okay? But I wanted to also add Ahbap into that link as well. because I talking to all my friends and family in Turkey and people with more knowledge over the situation, they said that this was the best NGO to work with, the one that immediately provides direct relief. Okay? Type TP Fund in Google and click Turkish philanthropy funds, donate with PayPal. PayPal is literally banned in Turkey. Okay? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is what I mean. PayPal is banned in Turkey, brother. Do you understand? You're probably trying to help, or maybe you're a scammer. I don't know. Okay? There's like cryptocurrency scams out there. There's like PayPal scams out there. Motherfuckers are trying to literally make money off of thousands of people dying while they're literally under the fucking rubble. Okay? Please. It's a complicated process, which is why we're trying to set it up as quickly as possible. Okay? Anyway, here, let's continue with this.
Well, so we're getting some of the specifics now. That's just the initial sort of response. In other words, people who might make a difference could help in the next 48 hours or so. Then I think will come the broader humanitarian support, which will be about the rebuilding, about looking after people in the coming weeks. As we've heard, the weather in parts of this region is pretty poor, wet, it's cold. A lot of people are going to need a lot of shelter very, very quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of people dying of exposure. So that's going to be the next phase. And then there'll be the longer term effort of how on earth do you help Turkey rebuild, and northern Turkey, northern Syria as well, because so much infrastructure. We're getting reports all the time about, not just buildings, but also just, the electricity, the gas, pipelines, all of these things, huge devastation across an incredibly large area.
Yeah, and we've been talking on the programme about the fact that northern Syria has been devastated by war for so many years, and now they find themselves in this situation. Those relationships with Syria are also quite tricky about how, whether they work with the Kurds or the Syrian government.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Just in the statement put out by the British Foreign Office a short while ago, the British Foreign Secretary talked about, the amount of aid going to Turkey. And then he said, in Syria, the UK-funded White Helmets have mobilised their resources to respond. In other words, a hint there that the way the international community might get some of its medical and humanitarian support will be through proxies, NGOs, international charities, people like the White Helmets, who in the past have dug people out of buildings that have been destroyed by airstrikes. They're now going to have to do it from people who've been destroyed by this earthquake. So I think that's just one illustration of the complications of that region, where getting aid in will not just be hampered by the logistics, but also potentially by some of the politics.
And, Turkey has been an interesting player in the war in Syria, for example, but also in the situation in Ukraine. So at the moment, you get to see the complexities of the relationships that Turkey has. On the one hand, the Russians have said we'll help. The Ukrainians have also said they'll help. I mean,
Turkish diplomats, whenever I speak to them, they always say, look, Turkey's the centre of the world. I mean, every country says that about their own country, but they mean it in a sort of, we've seen, sadly, it's a geographic reality, but they also see it as a political reality. The Turks are desperate to be seen as mediators in the war in Ukraine. They have an active role in what is, let's face it, a continuing conflict in Syria. It hasn't ended, it's just lessened in intensity, and the world's attention has been focused elsewhere. So all of that is going to make it complicated, but I think the sheer scale of this tragedy will, I think, just trump so much of the local politics. Because it's just, when I was thinking this morning, what's the comparison? We all looked it up in 1999 and 17,000 people died. Well, President Erdogan himself made. No, so the comparison is 1939, when 30,000+ people died. So that's the comparison that the Turkish president is making here. And if that is the case, if that's, God forbid, the numbers we reach, then I think the sheer scale of this tragedy and this crisis will, I think, wash away a fair amount of the politics that potentially could complicate things on the ground.
That was our diplomatic correspondent James Landell there. Now, situated on or near several fault lines, Turkey is one of the world's most active earthquake zones. The country recorded more than 22,000 earthquakes last year alone. Many are dead. The worst on record, a 7.6 magnitude quake in 1999, which killed more than 17,000 people. Here's our science editor, Rebecca Morrell.
The desperate hunt for survivors after Turkey's huge earthquake. At magnitude 7.8, it's one of the biggest to hit the region in more than 80 years. But Turkey's all too familiar with these natural disasters. It's one of the world's most seismically active areas. The country sits amidst several tectonic plates, and there are two major fault lines where they meet. The East Anatolian fault line is where the quake struck. As the plates grind past each other, tension gradually builds up along the fault line before it's released, resulting in an earthquake. The East Anatolian fault line
the number has risen to 2,300 thus far, from what we know, but that is going to be significantly higher. Okay, that is going to be significantly higher than that. Okay, donation link and page, donation bar for resources. Okay, but does this have? Hold on. Okay, Care Turkey, Care City, Akut and Ahbab. I think I might have the donation link, chat. Hold on. I'm going to set it up right now. Nearly 4 large aftershocks in the last hour. It's crazy. Yes, the only part of the donation distribution. I told Soft Giving that I just had to connect with you direct through WhatsApp. Okay. Okay. One USD is 18 lira. Even small amounts are significant, guys. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to drop the link when it's fully finalized. Okay. The charities, the NGOs featured are going to be Akut, Care Syria, Care Turkey, and Ahbab. Okay, that is where the donations are going to go to. The link is not available yet. I'm not going to do it until we have it. Okay. I'm gonna give it to you guys when it happens, when it's like fully ready to go. Sol kanallarda gösterilenler çok daha kötü durum. Hasan çok fena biliyorum.
150 miles long.
Hiç deprem yaşadın mı? Oğlum ben 1999 senesinde İstanbul'daydım ailemle beraber. Ben Türkiye'de büyüdüm. İstanbul'da ve Ankara'da büyüdüm. Evet, hiç deprem yaşadım yani.
What's made the quake so deadly is how shallow it is.
Ayrıca şimdi de Kaliforniya'da yaşıyorum amına koyayım. Burada Amerika'nın en çok deprem gören bölgesi ama Türkiye gibi değil tabii ki de burada olduğu zaman.
What's made the quake so deadly is how shallow it is. It happened at a depth of just 11 miles. Since 1970, this region has seen 3 earthquakes greater than magnitude 6.
This is magnitude 7, nearly magnitude 8. This was a big one. This is an earthquake such as we don't get more than about 20 of every year somewhere in the world. So this was big, and it was also quite shallow. If the rupture is closer to the surface, you get greater shaking of the ground surface than an earthquake of the same energy that happens at a greater depth. So it is a particularly nasty one.
An earthquake of the same magnitude hit northern Turkey in 1939. 30,000 people died. And in 1970, to the west of the country, a magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck, killing 1,000 people and leaving many thousands more homeless. And in 1999, an earthquake in the east of Turkey caused monumental damage and around 18,000
This is the one that I experienced.
deaths. It was one of the most destructive earthquakes in the history of the region. In Gaziantep, as the rescue operation gets underway, aftershocks are the main concern.
Ankara'nın dikmeni, bir daha gidersem sik beni amına koyayım. Ne sorup duruyorsun? Ankara'nın neresi abi? Ankara'nın neresi? Dikmen amına koyayım. Oldu mu?
Making already damaged buildings more likely to collapse.
Tövbe
And a second
estağfurullah,
quake
manyak
of
ya.
magnitude 7.5 has struck to the north of the epicenter, making a desperate situation even more challenging. Rebecca Morell, BBC News.
Dr. Stephen Hicks is a seismologist at University College London, and I asked him why Turkey and the surrounding region was so vulnerable to earthquakes. Have a listen.
Yeah, it's certainly no stranger to large earthquakes. What we have causing the earthquakes here is that we know Earth's crust, the outer layer, is divided into tectonic plates. And so one of those plates is called the Arabian Plate, so sort of the Arabian Peninsula. And that's ploughing northwards into Europe and Asia. And as it ploughs northwards, Turkey sort of has to get out of the way. It's sort of moving westwards. And that a collision is accommodated along 2 fault zones in Turkey. One is the northern Anatolian fault, sort of east of Istanbul, and in the north of the country, where we've had recent large earthquakes in the recent decades. But also today's earthquake was on the eastern Anatolian fault zone in the southeast of the country. But it's also, both of these faults have been caused by the same plate tectonic process.
We're just hearing there from another seismologist in our report saying that it is quite a shallow one and therefore nasty.
Yeah, I mean, when I was woken up by the alert in the early hours of this morning on my phone, and when you see that magnitude of earthquake, magnitude 7.8 at that depth, and then when you go to look at where that is on the map of Turkey, you just feel utterly devastated. And it's sort of, as a seismologist, we study earthquakes all the time. We know what their potential is, but until you have this sort of, awful combination of factors, of a shallow depth, being in a populated area without sort of buildings that can withstand this amount of shaking, it just is the worst case scenario. So it's an awful situation.